Hello Linux lovers, my name's Wimpy, welcome to my world. Have a slightly different stream lined up today. Normally I do a bit of software development, but today it's time for some hardware planning. So I've got a bunch of Raspberry Pi gear that I've amassed over the last, 18 months or so. And I've got a number of projects planned, some of which are partially started, some of which I haven't started. And I want to sort of crack through some of that stuff. So I've brought all of my Raspberry Pi related paraphernalia to this office. And what I want to do today is go through all of that, sort out what I've got, remind myself what I've got, and hopefully get some input from you as to the projects that I could be making. Some of them are kind of self-defining, as you'll see as we go through this, because there's a bunch of stuff that's very obvious what the intention behind the project is. But I've also got a load of parts, and I want to remind myself what I've got, because some of these boxes have been sat on a shelf and I haven't opened them, so I can't. Or I know one of them I can't remember what's in them. So there's quite a lot. I think there's over 20 Raspberry Pi and associated gubbins. So I'm going to be going through all of that. They're on the floor down here. I only have one cup of tea this morning because I think I'm going to run out of desk space as I sort through this. Good morning. So I thought I'd start with some straightforward bits and pieces. The first project that I definitely know that I'm going to be undertaking with this gear is it's time to refresh the Ubuntu Mate images for the Raspberry Pi. Ubuntu Mate is a desktop operating system, obviously based on Ubuntu, one of the official flavors. It's a project that I lead. So part of this whole exercise is to get prepared for building out those images, and I think we'll probably start on that later in the week. And I've got those devices that I do that building and testing with here. So we'll go through those, and then we'll then go and look at all the other stuff, and boy howdy, there's a lot of it. So I'm not sure how long this stream's going to take, but there's a lot of stuff to get through. So hello friends, I see there's a couple of regulars here, so welcome back, Takov. How you doing today? Hello Anthony Roberts, welcome. First time I think on the stream. Welcome, thanks for stopping by. Bit different, I usually do software development stuff here. This is hardware planning for some for some software making after the fact. Yeah, but Takov, there's loads of it here. Morning Big Pod, how are you today? I hope you're doing well. Did you get your .NET stuff done? And hey Linux Paul, welcome back, good morning. I trust you've got a cup of tea as well. Morning Phil, welcome back. Thanks for all that you've been doing on QuickEmu, by the way, much appreciated. Right then. Okay, so this is new, and I see you're finding that there are some channel point integrations. So there's just two at the moment. You've seen them both. Good morning King Egypt. Morning Navy Cat. I can see you're here as well. So I'll just explain that very briefly. Actually, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've changed on the back end of the OBS setup. I'll cover that at a later date, not today, but my OBS has been refactored, and the reason for that is that I'm now using Atom to do some of the automation and also handling the channel point redemptions, of which there are just two. And we'll be adding more channel integrations, but as those two have worked, which is good news because this is the first time they've been put into production, let's say. I've got plenty more planned, so I'll be adding more fun stuff in due course. But behind the scenes there's a whole lot going on, and I'm actually writing a socket server, because Atom has a capability where you can call a web page, and what I want to do is I want to be able to run arbitrary commands triggered via Atom. So I'm writing a socket server which maps URLs to commands that you can run, so that I can integrate, execute, running, you know, things like configuration inside of Visual Studio Code live whilst the stream is running. And what I'm actually thinking is, if we can get to the point where you lot can mess with my development environment as I'm doing stuff, that's a longer term goal. But some of the some of the fun and games that you can expect to be seeing coming up in the not too distant future. Right, so yes, Atom.tv, Atom TV. If you Google it, you'll find there's a Twitter account. There was a stream. Mr. Greggles, the drummer, and his team are behind this, and I watched their stream on Saturday evening where they finally unveiled it. It's the only like fully fledged automation software for OBS that has a Linux client, and it works really well. So I'm super happy with that. So it's all running here now, but it's Raspberry Pis. So I'm going to start with some of the basic bits and pieces that I've got. Hang on, what's going on here? So, oh, you've started testing the event, the serverless stuff. Nice one, Big Pod. Almost spilt my brew. Oh dear. Right. Hey, Tyler. Oh gosh, you're up late again. Morning, Luke. It is basically a REST API, Big Pod, that I'm working on. It's a very simple REST API. And just a URL maps to an executable. So it's hard coded at the moment, but I'm going to make it a config file. So you can just say this URL triggers this command. Anyway, right then, let's start with some basics. Oh, it's all early. Okay. So these I found. I probably need to get ready to do the overhead view as well. Let's see if that's working. Yay. So I found these. I don't even remember ordering these, but these look quite fun. I had no idea what I had in mind for these, but they're a bunch of silver and gold Raspberry Pi sticky logos. They're sort of plastic with metal inserts. So I can't remember what I had in mind for these, but clearly I either like the look of them or I had something in mind. So I've got some of those that I can obviously stick on some of these things, but I don't recall what that was all about exactly. So I'm going to start with my original collection. So there's nothing particularly unusual here, I don't think. So this is a Raspberry Pi A. I think it's a 3. Has this got an SD card in it? It doesn't. This one I use when I'm working on Ubuntu Mate images. I used to test on this just to make sure that it hit the RAM requirements to run on one of these. So that's in a nice metal case. These are quite decent. If you're working on projects where you want to bury these things inside walls, this is a really nice case for that, because it actually gives a decent amount of protection while still exposing all of the ports and the pins and everything. So that's quite a nifty case. I really quite like that. This is an early Raspberry Pi, in the best case I've ever had. I don't use it anymore, but I need to figure out something to do with this really old. I think this is like an early original model. So I think it's like the first 512 model. This is one of my dev things I use for testing Ubuntu Mate on. So I'll be using this later in the week. This is a simple plastic case. I've got the SD card in there. It says 2 gig. So I'm guessing this is a Raspberry Pi 4 2 gig model in here. And I imagine, can't remember how, but I was guessing that maybe those come off, but never mind. So that's a testing board. This is an old testing board as well. I don't use anymore. It sits in that pile over here for ancient Raspberry Pis I don't know what to do with anymore. This is my main testing Raspberry Pi. So this one is, it's a nice case, this one. It's a Raspberry Pi Neo case. So this is a 4 gig Raspberry Pi 4 in here. I found these nifty stickers, you can see, where, because I always forget what's in what. We're going to see a lot of me forgetting what's in what case today. So these stickers help like identify. So I've still got the SD card in this one. And this one I ported the Arctic Cooler driver to Ubuntu, which you'll find in my GitHub. So I use this for testing that fan driver to make sure that works. So this is a fan hat that sits on top of the board, but you can get it all inside this case. So it's actually quite a compact Raspberry Pi 4 that stays cool and relatively quiet, actually. And this was my media center at one point. And I can't remember what's in here, but I think it's a Raspberry Pi 3 something, I think. But that goes in sort of the pile of Martin doesn't know what to do with those older models. So yeah, it's a quiet fan, that one, and also the fan is controllable nice and easily. Right then. No, so Takov is asking if I wrote that socket server API in Bash. I will admit I started in Bash, and then I realised actually that was a really bad idea. So it's written in Python. It's a proper program this time. This is a nifty case. This is full of the SD cards and the SD card adapters. And I've got a load in there, but as you will have seen, there's a bunch of these that are still carrying, you know, the SD cards inside them. So I'll need to sort of at some point pull all of those cards out and reset and reformat and everything. So Big Pod says, after today's holiday that you're supposed to spend with the family, he's going to go back to work researching static site generators for a job interview. Ah, right, that he did for a company. I'm saying nothing. Right then. Yes, so this SD card case is brilliant. I think well, you can see what it looks like, okay? So it looks like that, and I've got this, you know, I like my Dymo labels. This says news. These are my new cards. There we go. JJC memory card case. They come in different sizes and capacities, but underneath all of these, there's 3 micro SDs, and then there's the SDs that you can put on top. So you can actually get absolutely loads of cards in here. And in fact, I think one of these you can place compact flash on top of those as well. So you can get like 36 cards in them. So they're dead handy. So I like those a lot. So this is the first interesting one I have. I don't think Yannick is with us this morning, but this is the Raspberry Pi screen and what have you. So what is this on the back of here? I built this ages ago. This is a Raspberry Pi 3. And it's this is a touch screen. And I've still got the screen protector on it. But I started working on a digital photo frame for this, and then sort of got bored with that idea. So it's kind of been an ornament for some considerable time. But Yannick is working on his project Streamberry, which is intended to be a whoops. As I push the wrong button on the Stream Deck, which is intended to be a Stream Deck alternative. And as you can see, they're fairly comparable. You know, this is a Stream Deck XL, and this is a fairly similar size. So I'm hoping to, I know what I want to do with this one. I want to test Yannick's Streamberry in order to create what is basically a second, Stream Deck type interface, either for here or for home. So that's definitely what I'm going to be using this one for. And I'll probably leave it with the Pi 3. I think that will be enough Raspberry Pi for the job. But these are fairly simple to assemble. And most of my stuff I get from the Pi Hut because they're based in the UK and they support the foundation and all sorts of things. So they're good buyers, sellers rather. So let's have a look. Just catch up on some of this here. One day I'll get a Raspberry Pi and set up that music streamer that you want to. Yeah, so we'll get to that. I'm pretty sure somewhere in these, there's a ton of stuff down here. We are just literally scratching the surface at the moment. But in these boxes, I'm not certain, but I think I've got parts to build a music-y type thing, but I can't actually remember. So let's have a look. Just catching up on the chat here. Carrying cases for the SD cards are called phones. No, you can only carry one SD card in a phone. Right then, Luke says, oh, you're all talking about static site generators now. Very good. Right. And if you go through swapping. So. Oh, right. Oh, you've been learning another language. Good for you. Hey, Dust. How you doing? This is the refactored stream, Dust, by the way. Although there's only two channel point integrations, although all the OBS backend has been completely refactored over the weekend. And Dust, this morning, because I stream from two different locations. This is the lodge and then at home. And so this morning I was figuring out where Atom keeps all of its configuration. So I rsynced my Atom config from home over to this location. And so I've now got Atom running here with the same stuff. So yeah, we're up and running. So there's only two channel point redemptions. They are both powered by Atom, but behind the scenes, there's a ton of Atom being used to drive some of my automation on the the back end side of things. And as I was saying to this lot earlier, I'm working on what I've called Atom's Butler, that socket server, and I'll do some work on that on this stream at some point in the future when it's not a hard-coded sort of POC. And it's a bit more useful. So I suppose the next one that's kind of interesting is the nondescript white box here. This is my original engineering sample of the Raspberry Pi 400. So we got these, this is from when I worked at Canonical, and we got these I think about 2 months before they were announced. And it was this device and one other that an ex-colleague of mine at Canonical has, that was used to do all the work to land the Raspberry Pi 400 support in Ubuntu. So I've still got all of that, and it's all pretty intact here with all of the original bits that I've tried not to open. So I'll probably be using this as like my main dev board for the Ubuntu Mate work I'm going to do. And if you're familiar with the Raspberry Pi 400, you'll know it comes with a rather cool book. I didn't get to keep the book. My daughter has requisitioned that, so she has the book. So I think that one is probably going to be my main dev machine, and I'll hook that up with the HDMI capture board. We'll come on to that later because that in itself is an interesting device. So I'll put that one down there. Now we start going into the brown boxes of stuff, and I just don't know. I can't remember what's in these. This is there's a ridiculous amount of gear in here. So just says that's nice because a reauth on one of the machines there, but it's not an issue. Then go for it. Yes, I think It did. A reauth for what though, Dust? I think I had to refresh the OBS connection. So the only thing is that I can't overtype the host name. I just want to put localhost in for the OBS connection name. In this case, 2 different machines, both talking to localhost on the socket or the WebSocket server for OBS itself. So, yeah, it's about to get silly with the number of Raspberry Pis that are about to appear big pod, so I apologise in advance for. I think we're going to approach nearly 30 Raspberry Pis. How many have we got so far? The Raspberry Pi 400, 1. This is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 out so far. So let's move on to this box, and I really don't recall what's in here, but it is chock full of stuff. Oh gosh, this box is huge. So Dust says, when it connects to our servers for a license check and the Twitch stuff, we regen a token and send back to the client for the next connection. So I think, because I've bodged it, I've like copied the whole config over. Everything, all of the config files. So I think it probably looks like the same login stroke device as far as your backend is concerned. There's those little groovy stickers. You can get these from the Pi Hut if you want to identify, you know, your Raspberry Pis. I find those quite handy. So that goes in the decoration, and as you can see, there's a ton of stuff here, and I haven't got space for the tea anymore. What are the chances I push that off the edge of the desk at some point? So we'll push all of that out of the way back here and make some room. So I think mostly in here I've got like camera related stuff. Obviously some power supplies. So that's all useful, but not like fascinating. Although these are pretty cool. Where is it? Here we go. This one's interesting. So this is another one of my main dev boards. There's an SD card in that one as well. And this is the one that I did most of the Raspberry Pi, most of the development for Ubuntu Mate and the Raspberry Pi on. So I like this case. I forget what it's called. It's another one of the... there's no... yeah, it's the Argon 1. I quite like this because you can cover it, and inside it does this whole clever daughter board arrangement, so you get everything, all the ports present on the back, and that's my HDMI adapter. So this goes in my pile of dev boards that I'll be using for the Ubuntu Mate stuff. That's an I/O board that, as you can see, I don't think has ever been opened, for the Compute Module 4. So my plan for this one, I think, is to try and create some kind of laptop device using this as the main board, and then here we have 2 different compute modules. So these are both Raspberry Pi 4 compute modules, and I can't remember how these differ. I think one has like all the RAM and all the storage on it, and the other one is more simple. So again, these have never been opened, and actually I think I ordered these back in September last year, and I think they took about 4 or 5 months to turn up. So this is a Compute Module 4 Lite. Okay, so I think that one's not got any onboard storage. And then this one, I think it's got all the toys, so I think it's got Wi-Fi and other bits and bobs as well. So that's probably the one I'm most interested in. And so I'll be looking for if there are any laptop type projects out there for 3D printed cases and stuff like this, to try and turn this into an actual sort of computer or something. I don't know. I'm not sure I want to have a go at a tablet. I think that feels a bit like overdone. I've always wanted to do a laptop that looked like a laptop, and I have some next dock cases at home which are basically like laptop chassis with no actual compute inside them. They're just like screens, keyboards, and USB and HDMI connectors. So I think, you know, these things plus a next dock, so I need to bring that in, is probably a laptop project in the making. Okay. Just looking through the chat here. So Dusty's, if I exclude settings.json from syncing going forward, I'll be good. Okay, I can do that. That's good to know. I haven't actually like set up. I do have like a roaming profile set up. So how many are we up to now? I've forgotten how many I got to before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We're up to 12. So I think I know what I want to do with that, but I'm open to suggestions about what I could do with a compute module, because I want to do something fun with that. Let's have a look at that. Compute modules are awesome. Yeah, they're underrated, I think. Right then. So I've got an antenna here. I don't know what for, but I have one. That I must have bought that for a reason. This is a charging thing. What's this? This is another USB charger. Oh, hello. Oh my gosh! Look at this. This is a blast from the past. Who was keeping count of the Raspberry Pis? So some of you may know about these. This is the Nextcloud box. Do you remember these? From a few years ago. So I think this has got a Raspberry Pi 2 inside it. Yeah, a Raspberry Pi 3. I did a I think the last blog post I did on my now defunct blog, it's still there but I don't update it anymore, was about how to make one of these run Ubuntu Core. And this was what I used to put all of that together. Again, this was one of those things I worked on when I was at Canonical, and that sat running on Nextcloud for some considerable time. So that I will probably redo as a Nextcloud thing, but maybe pull out the Pi 3 for a Pi 4. Possibly, maybe. So Sleepy Eyes Vince 13, is that the new number including the Nextcloud box? So the original Archon 1, yes, the newer ones have full-size HDMI. I think I have one of the newer ones in here, or the other box, so we'll find out. What have I got here? Well, I think, okay, so this, I've written on this random Pi bits. It's a good labeling system. So I've got the short SD card adapters. So this means that you can put these in the original Raspberry Pis that took SD cards, but they don't protrude. And I've got more of these identifying stickers, a bunch of standoffs, and most importantly, loads and loads and loads of heat sinks and fans. So this is, you know how like you just accumulate a box of stuff that you need for things. This is one of those boxes of essential bits. When I used to do like big conferences back in the 90s and the early 2000s, we just had like this massive chest, but it was just full of cables and power adapters, and we shipped it to everything because you always just needed random things. These are pretty cool. I recommend this sort of thing. So this is obviously a power supply, yawn, but has a switch in it. I love these switched power supplies. This is for the old micro USBs, but I love the switched power supplies for the Pi stuff. Makes life easy. I'll just toss the power supplies down here, I think, because I have plenty of them. So there's another one exactly the same. So those are the older ones. That is a mounting plate for one of the camera things. So I'll come to that. I don't think I'm ever going to use that. This must be a new one. Yes, this is power for a Raspberry Pi 4. So I'm just going to get all the power cables out of the way because that's not particularly interesting. More USB cables by the looks of it. Okay. Oh, hello. Oh, I see. Maybe this is for the compute module. I have an antenna cable here which goes to that. So I'm guessing that must go with the compute module. Oh, and we've got some more heat sinks that have fallen out of the random box of bits here. A laptop case cluster. What are you suggesting I build that out of, Bill? Okay, thanks, Sleepy Eyes Mint. So we're up to 13. I haven't actually brought out any additional Raspberry Pis yet. Well, let's do that now. So this is a Raspberry Pi Zero, I think. And what sort is it? Yeah, it's a Raspberry Pi Zero W. So I think we're up to 14 now. I can't remember if I got this one to make a camera project with. I think it might be, given that it's in this box, which has got a load of camera bits and pieces in it. So I think that was for a camera project. Oh, in fact, it was. If any of you watched Foss Talk Live this year, or rather the streamed version, you'll know that what we branded Ubuntu Voltage did a challenge, and my original idea was going to be a camera, like an actual digital camera. And I think I have all of the parts. I planned it out, but then realized it was too complex a project to do in the time available. So I did my NDI encoder. These are nifty. So I think we're up to 14 now. I'll try and remember that. If someone can just type 14 in chat, it'll help me keep count later on. So this is the same idea. This is USB-C cable, again switched. I love these switched cables. I've got loads of them. I think I've got another box at home which is like older collection of Pi stuff, and I've got various generations of those. What have we got here? So this is the new for the Pi HDMI adapter. So I'll just stick that to one side. So and King Egypt says, you think that's bad labeling? I opened a Tupperware box and labeled something tea this morning. Very good, I approve. So these are some partially built camera boxes that I've got here, and okay, so this must be a Pi 2 or a Pi 3 because it's got the micro USB here, and I think this is the OG camera module. So I believe that makes 15 Raspberry Pis. And then I've got another one in a slightly different case. And this one is a Raspberry Pi 4 because of the Type-C connector here and the micro HDMI. And this has got the original camera module in it as well. Now, I think what I had in mind for these was to, well, first of all, just use them as like getting to know the camera module. But this one's got 1/4-inch mount. And I think the idea is where this webcam is actually mount one of these and actually try and turn it into like a top-down webcam like I'm using for the stream here. So I think this one makes 16, right? But these are definitely, these are pre-built. I did some tinkering with them, but I never finished the software side of things. So these are definitely camera projects, these two. So I think we're 16. Yep, 16, thank you. So Then we've got lots of camera modules here. So these are two of the high quality cameras. So I'll just get one out in case you've not seen them. These are pretty cool, and you can stick lenses on them. And I think the idea is that I'm going to marry up one of these with the Raspberry Pi Zero and turn that into a sort of a fully fledged sort of decent quality camera. And one of the ideas was to turn it into like a replacement for, you know, the streaming camera, or maybe like, you know, mount it up in the corner, strap a battery to it and do it all over Wi-Fi and have like, you know, a second angle camera, you know. So I've got two of these high quality camera lenses at least, because I think I may have got confused and ordered more than two. There's definitely one in each of those. So lenses go there. We've got so that's a ribbon cable for something, and it got it came, I think it may be for a camera, but I'm not certain. So this is, here we go. This is the HD camera mount. This is just a set of plastic bits to go together, and I'm pretty sure the idea is that you put a Raspberry Pi Zero together with this, and that does in fact look like it's the case. So I think that those all go together, and my original plan is to use those to make an actual camera. So we'll I think that one, I know what I'm planning to do with it. These are random screws. That's for my random box of bits. Oh, here we go. Here's another one of these HD mounts, which you can see it's got the level in it as well. So I was clearly planning on building at least two of those. And we have a different camera module here. I don't remember getting this one, but this is not an official lens from the Pi Foundation. This is from another company. Oh, maybe this is, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is the infrared camera. No, this is just a regular Pi camera with a lens pre-installed. Okay, I don't recall getting that, but there it is. So I think I was planning all of this. Remember when lockdown started and you couldn't get webcams for love nor money? I was planning on building them, but then didn't get around to it. So yeah, well, actually, that's not a bad idea, is it? Baby monitors. Yeah, you could probably also, you know, use the mic and everything. I've got another, oh my gosh, another one of these camera mounts. That's still for the Raspberry Pi Zero, of which I only have one Pi Zero. I have a story about all of these fan hats. I'll come back to that in just a moment. So, oh, and another one. Wow. How did I end up with so many of these? Maybe I'll have to do some kind of giveaway, because I've now got 4 of these camera mounts, and I've only got one Raspberry Pi Zero and 2 camera lenses, so I feel like I'm overstocked there. More random bits for my box of stuff. There's some more there and some more there. I think they're the rule plugs and what have you for that camera mount, which I won't use. Okay, so these are the mini fans that I was showing you in the Neo case earlier. I've got several of these because the Raspberry Pi 4 kind of needs them. So I'll leave those in there because I'm already dropping the thermal interface material. But I've got a couple of extra fans there for, you know, Raspberry Pi 4 stuff. And then I have lots of these. And this wasn't deliberate. I think I ordered like 2 of these. And there was a delay in the order. So 2 turned up after them telling me that the order was delayed. Then another 2 turned up later that day with a note saying, "We're sorry for the delay in getting the order to you." And then another 2 turned up a few days later with another note apologising. And I think I ended up with 6 of these. So I've given a bunch of these away to friends already, but I've still got 4 left after I've used a bunch that I already have. That's oh, okay, so this is a 0 cam case for the Raspberry Pi Zero, so that can go in the camera projects department. Okay, let's see what have we got here. We've got some small boxes here. Okay, these are extender cables. I thought these looked interesting. I've never actually had the need to use them, but you never know. This looks like it could be good fun. So the idea is here that you right, it's enough. Let's just get this out. This is, you plug that into the micro SD, and then you get this big long ribbon cable with a card reader on the end. So I was thinking, when I'm working on things where I need to put the Raspberry Pi in hard to get places, I could dangle one of these off in order to... Thanks, Eduardo, for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome to the stream. So yeah, these are kind of cool, but I haven't actually put anything in such a difficult to reach place. Yeah, sorry if this is like, you know, looking at somebody raiding the sweet shop, but I'm just trying to remind myself what I've got and what I had in mind for some of this stuff. But these are quite nifty, I think. Maybe there's another box down here where I think this will definitely come up. So actually I'll put that one down there to remind myself that that's what I think this one might be for. Right, I've got some more fan shims here. Different type of fan shim. These are from Pimmeroni. I was having fun writing fan drivers. That's another one of those SD card extenders. Right, okay, so now we get into more camera stuff. So this is one of the lenses for the camera modules. These are pretty decent. So proper lens with manual focus, close and long range. And this is the infrared lens. So that can go back in there. So that'd be a curious one. I'm just trying to think. I mean, it's the right time of year, I suppose, to do an IR project. And then this is the big lens for the camera module, and these are quite chunky. So what I was thinking is that, you know, obviously a webcam has fixed focus. You know, it's just, you know, infinite focus. But I was thinking maybe this top down. You can then zoom in and out. So as I'm showing you things, you know, I'm having to come closer and farther away, but it won't zoom in on the smaller details here. But with this, I could actually have this, you know, on a top down thing and zoom in on. So that was my idea for that. So I'm definitely wanting to make my own replacement webcam that has like manual zoom, you know, racking zoom. So that is what I had in mind for that particular lens. What camera module and all the rest, I don't know. We'll figure that out in due course. So how do you ever get any work done when you have all these toys in your office? Well, that's part of the problem, King Egypt. As you can see, this stuff I've been collecting with ideas in my head and never had the time to actually turn the ideas into, you know, actual things, which is why I've brought it here, because I've got a bit more room here, and my plan is to start building some of the stuff on these streams in the morning, you know, and I can do 45 minutes here in the morning and an hour there in the morning and actually make progress through some of these projects that I had in mind. And I'll do that here, and we can all learn together, and hopefully you lot can educate me in the process as well. So yeah, it's frustrating because, yeah, I have got all of this stuff, but a lot of it I've only just like done the basics with. I haven't actually like got a full project out of it yet. What have we got here? Another Raspberry Pi Zero by the looks of it. Does that make 17? Does that make 17? So this one's got the headers on it. So this is probably a better choice for the camera, because I think the ones without the headers will be more suitable for another project I've got in a box. Some of the other projects in the other boxes are like half complete and are probably the ones I want to start with, because I think they're going to be the most fun. And with Christmas coming and this year being able to see family again, and we have lots of children in our family, I've got some ideas for fun and games at Christmas. Oh, so does that make 17? Thank you, Sleepy Eyes Vince. That's 17. I'm going to put that over here for the moment, because this is where the Raspberry Pi stuff is kind of building up. Raspberry Pi Zero stuff, rather. What's this? Oh, yes. So this is definitely for over here, the camera section. This is, I was saying earlier about I was planning making an actual digital camera, and this was part of it. So you'll remember that the project that we had on, well, those of you that saw it, on Foss Talk Live, was to make anything that used a single button to operate it. So this is a 2.8 inch LCD screen that is a hat. So my idea was this would be the viewfinder and the one button. And then I realized that that would actually be a second button, because you have to have a button to turn it on. So my idea was then just to use this as like the visual display for the camera, and the one button would turn the device on, so have GPIO pins to turn the device on, and once it was on, different numbers of button presses would take a picture, take a video, or shut the device down, something like that. So this is definitely for a more complete actual digital camera project. And my idea is that as you take pictures, it will automatically upload them to like Instagram and Twitter. And my whole concept was to replace those like codec cheap one-time use cameras that you have at weddings. So you build one of these once, and then you could take as many pictures as you want. But because you use them at weddings, the idea is that you can have, you know, people see the photographs then and there whilst they're at the thing. So yeah, that's a WaveShare screen that was going to be the screen for my camera. So that is going to go in the pile of bits for cameras. Oh gosh, I'm dropping things now. So there we go. So hey, wow, how do I pronounce that? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Gay scab? Those long ribbon cables can cause data loss. Okay, interesting. I had a very long ribbon cable to a camera, and sometimes the image. Okay, right. Okay. Well, I'm hoping not, but that's good to know. So if I do use it and run into problems, I'm at least fair warned that it could be that. And you've just so QWERTY Timer says they've just ordered the new Pi 02. Yes, I want to get one of those, and when I get to the other box in just a moment, I'll show you the project that I have in mind for it. Very much oh gosh, right, that's just going to go there. I'll pack that away later. So I've got another one of these cases for the camera stuff, like this one. So there's no Raspberry Pi in there, it's just a case, but there is a Raspberry Pi here. This is a 3 Model A. I'm assuming there's a Pi in it. There is. So that's another Model A, and again, that could have been one of the camera boards that I had in mind. So I think that brings us to 18. Another case, a camera case that supports the 2 and the 3. I was just getting all of the camera cases to try things out, but I haven't actually built anything inside that. Here's a an extension board for the Argon 1 case, which I had out earlier. It's this one. And this enables you to put an SD card, a SATA, a SATA NVMe, not SATA NVMe, a SATA SSD on one of these, which I've not done. But and the reason for that is at the time we were still working on the USB disk enablement in Ubuntu. So that is, we're still at 18. We're still at 18. These are some cases. There's nothing in them. They're aluminium. They're solid. What's the passively cooled, cases. And there's the new Argon 1 case, which is basically like this one, except it already has dropping stuff again. Already has the SSD adapter in it. So I will probably move one of the Pi 4 boards over to this and set up one of them with an SSD so that I've got that as a test bed, because that's one of the things that people always ask for when you bang out a new version of a Raspberry Pi images. Does it work with SSDs? This is a clue to what's going to be in the next bunch of stuff. So this is a retro flag NES-Pi case. This hasn't been built in yet, and I'll just put this to one side because we'll come back to that in a moment. There's a reason that will be relevant in a moment. And then we have, what do we have here? Wow, I don't actually know. A board of some sort, a case. Oh, an acrylic case. Okay, there's no hardware in here. There's no Raspberry Pis in here, but this is a case. I don't know why I got this case. I can't imagine what I was thinking. I think I've had that for a long time, but it's a case, and I don't know what I would do with that. But it's for the Pi 4 specifically, so maybe it was one of the early Pi 4 cases. Right, so that's a lot of gear there. I think what I'll do is I'm going to put back everything that was absolutely positively, in fact no, I'll just put everything in there for the time being. Definitely everything that was camera related can go in here. So that was all camera. This is all camera. Camera. This was all camera related, as was this and that. So that's now just camera stuff, and everything else can be considered general Raspberry Pi related stuff. So I'll put this box to one side for a moment. There's another box a bit like that one, and I said I'd get back to this as well. So hello Jeff, how you doing? Welcome back. So King Egypt says my best wedding photos were from disposable cameras, but that was before camera phones, of course. I think that whole disposable camera thing at weddings is good, because you kind of get these candid pictures of, the actual event, which is good. Right, I've got a bigger box here. So, oh gosh, this box is falling apart. Right then, this box mostly has a theme of what is in it. Oh wow, except I didn't know that. So I've got two more Argon 1 Pi 4 cases here, and another Argon Neo case, and a lot of Raspberry Pis. Where did we get to? Did we get to 18? So here's a Raspberry Pi 4 8 gig, and another Raspberry Pi 4 8 gig, and another Raspberry Pi 4 8 gig. So that's 21. And a Raspberry Pi 4 4 gig, so that's 22. Compute Module 3 Plus Lite, that's 23. And a Raspberry Pi 3 Model B Plus. So that's, are we at 24? Can somebody please type 24 so I don't forget? So these are for some of what's in here. So thanks, Danny. 24. So this is, you know, the next batch of pies to go into things. So I will just put those here, and we have another case here. Oh, so this is an unfinished project. I don't think he's here today, so I can reveal this. This is for Popey because he's a Spectrum nerd. So I think I've got a very old Raspberry Pi in here. Is it a 2 or something, or a 3? It's a 3. But the idea is that I was gonna make an actual boot to Spectrum basic Raspberry Pi for Popey. So that is 25 because there's a Raspberry Pi inside there. And this one was for me because those of you that know Popey and I, maybe you remember we did a sort of a pilot series of 8-bit verses. So this is mine, which is a Commodore 64. And this is a Raspberry Pi 3 as well. So that's 26 because there's a Raspberry Pi inside this as well. And one of the ideas is that we could actually use these as the emulation devices for when we're doing 8-bit verses. I hope one day 8-bit verses makes a return. I thoroughly enjoyed doing that. It's what got me into streaming. What have we got here? A Raspberry Pi Zero starter kit. And there is indeed a Raspberry Pi inside here, along with the adapters and the headers and a case. And there's a Raspberry Pi in there. So I think that is 27. So that, I think, will probably now go in my camera box because we had lots of those little camera cases. So that now means I've got 3 Raspberry Pi Zeros for making cameras with. So I think that will do nicely. So 27. Is that right? Someone just whack 27 in. I'm terrible at keeping these numbers in my head. Oh, this is super rare. I'll come back to that one because those are rarer than hen's teeth. So I've got a couple of controllers here, and this is kind of what most of this box is all about. So these are the 8BitDo SF30 Pro Bluetooth gamepads, and these are to go alongside one of these cases, but I can't remember which. So that's a set of controllers. What I want to do is I want to build a retro emulator for each of the platforms. And so what we have here is the NES Pi. I think this is the NES Pi Plus. This has a Raspberry Pi inside it. So this one just needs software because I want to put together like a common platform for doing the emulation. So this takes us to 28 and is why I was referring to, where did I put it? That other case. Is it back here? Here it is. So this is the slightly sort of newer version of this, where you have this cartridge and that cartridge is an SSD. So I think that is going to get moved over here, or I will use one of these Pis to build a newer version of this. Now some of these I'm planning to make and then give to kids in the family at Christmas so that they can play old-fashioned games and have fun. So, but there's 2 Raspberry Pis and I have 2 NES cases, and I think, as you can see here, that case came with these 2 controllers, which are completely bobbins. But so there's those 2 controllers that could be used. But what I was thinking is it would probably be better to, you know, pair it up with something like these 8-bit DO controllers, or I already have some of these as well. So these are also the NES 30 Pro controllers. I really like these ones. I've built other NES emulators in the past a long time ago and used these as the controllers, and they work really well, and you can even update the firmware for these on Linux, which is terrific. So I've got 2 NES cases there and 3 sets of NES controllers, and here are my original controllers for my original NES project, which I think I may have in here. I can't remember if I think I may have tossed the case because it was a 3D printed case and it had actually started to fracture. But these are my original 8-bit DO controllers, which are wired only, which are to make a NES system as well. So as you can see, plenty of controllers for making NES systems and Super NES and what have you. Maybe that's the way I'll do it. Maybe I'll use this one to just do Super NES, and I'll use the original NES case just to do, unless I've actually got an actual, oh, here we go. I have a actual Super NES case. So there we go. So that means I've got these controllers that I can use with this Super NES case, which is the US style. So this has a Raspberry Pi inside it, I think. It does. Yeah, so there you can see the ports are there. So that's bringing us to 29 Raspberry Pis. So it's very clear what this one's going to be used for. It's going to be the Super NES emulator. So my idea is that instead of having like one Raspberry Pi with a gajillion games on it, I'd make one for each platform. And if you want to play Super NES games, you just reach for the Super NES case, and that's what that is. So, you know, that was the idea. So that's the Super NES case, and that's definitely going to go with those controllers because they're color matched. I have this is from a longer time ago, but I have the original NES Pi case as well. And that is never been out of the box by the look of it. So this is the original one. I think it's only for the Pi 2. There is no Raspberry Pi inside it. So that one isn't going to get used at the moment, unless I cannibalize one of those back there and use it. But I could, I suppose. I mean, it would be another person I could give one of those to. And I do have enough controllers to do this. So maybe I will. Maybe I will build that one out at some point as well. Right, okay. I don't know. I don't recognize that description on there. Oh, okay. Ah, right. Okay. So this is a charger for this style of battery. I forget what these are called. These are 18650 lithium ion batteries. And I suppose that means I have to go and get the device that this goes in. So that's just a battery charger. And that was for this device, which is a portable Raspberry Pi. So there's the screen, the controllers, the buttons, speakers, and around the back of the port. So there's another Raspberry Pi in here. So this is 30. And this is a Raspberry Pi 3. It has the SD card as well. So this was my first effort at making a portable Raspberry Pi game console. It's a bit... it's not very ergonomic, let's say, but that's where this battery comes in. So you charge these batteries up and they go there. So not the most ergonomic of devices. It does work, but I did drop it. So I've already crushed this, what would be a trigger switch here. So that is completely busted. This one still works. So that's what that was for. So that takes us to 30. If somebody could help me keep count, that would be great. And that one, they do have like a downloadable image But what I wanted to do was make my own, you know, OS for each of these. Basically make like a generic starting point and then be able to augment for each model and each, you know, emulator. So I suppose whilst we're on constructed things, this is another one. This is the Monster Joystick, which has a Raspberry Pi, and that's a Raspberry Pi 4 inside it. So this is a Sanwa arcade stick. You can get these from monsterjoysticks.com. Inside there's a massive wiring loom. You can't see much of it, but there's a lot of wires in there that hook to the GPIOs in order to hook up all these buttons. And this I want to put an arcade emulator on and just have you know, the fighters to use, you know, this you know, fighting stick controller on. Again, not the most ergonomic, but actually the parts are really high quality. So I think this brings us to 31. And at the moment, this doesn't have anything on it. I haven't actually built an OS for this one yet. But it's something I want to do. You know, it's very easy to grab things from the download from the manufacturer, but it's more fun for me to, you know, make the software. Right, okay, this one is... Let me just check. These ones are hard to find, and I don't think there's a Raspberry Pi in here. As he looks around, I don't think there is. So this is obviously a PlayStation. 3D printed PlayStation case. And these two buttons work. Power and reset. And I haven't built inside this yet. Now, I think I got this from a guy in Canada who makes these to order. And the reason I got this is that my in-laws have one particular PlayStation 1 game that they absolutely love, called Next Tetris. And they've got my old PlayStation 1 and my brother-in-law's old PlayStation 1. And as you can imagine, like, you know, 25 years on, they're starting to not work properly. So my idea was to build in this and have a PlayStation emulator on it with just the Next Tetris, so that they can continue to play that game. So that project is absolutely unstarted, and I will need maybe, I mean, I don't know this yet, but I'm probably going to need a Raspberry Pi 4 for PlayStation 1 emulation, but that's what it's going to be absolutely definitely for. Oh my gosh, we've got another one of these. There's a NES 4 Pi, a tiny case. Oh, I remember this. This was somebody got me this as a gift, but this is a much smaller NES case, and there's no Pi in this. So, I wonder if I've got enough NES controllers to go around. But that one's not being started on. That was I don't know, a Christmas or birthday present from somebody, I seem to think. But I haven't done anything with that one yet. This one I think is the best looking of the cases, and I think the one I'm most looking forward to actually building and playing the games that I'm going to put on it. So as you can see, this is a reproduction, what we would call a Mega Drive. So that opens up and you can put your SD cards in there, and it's got the on, off and reset switch. And I did start writing the switch drivers for Ubuntu for this one, and you take that off and you can access the USB ports for connecting wired controllers should you want. This has got a Raspberry Pi 3 or 2 inside it because it's only going to be running Mega Drive games, so consequently it doesn't need to be, you know, mega powerful. Excuse the pun. So that's the case for that one. Yeah, I think I've got a 2 or a 3 in there. So that brings us to 32, because that's actually got a, you know, a Pi inside it. And then we've got these, which are outstanding. These are officially licensed controllers that are in the style of the Mega Drive. So there's your two controllers to go with the Mega Drive to create as an authentic experience as possible, which is what I've done with the 8-bit DOE stuff, you know, to try and get that looking as genuine as possible. And another Super Nintendo case, so this time the European style. I'm going to guess that this hasn't been built in. Is this the European or Japanese style? I think Europe had the same as the Japanese model, didn't we? And anyway, there it is. And no, that hasn't been built in. So I've got lots of those. I think when I'm done building in some of these I'm not going to actually get around to using. And if I do that, then maybe what we can do is do some kind of raffle for on the stream for people that are after some of this stuff, and I'll ship some, you know, leftover bits and pieces to people, and then you can make something and show us what you made. So another one of those which I've not clearly not started doing anything with at the moment. So and then this one, which is one of my favorites. Is 32 the right number at the moment? I see. Thank you very much, Saronin, for keeping count. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So this will make 33. And this is a reproduction Game Boy style case. And what we have in the back here is a cartridge, in air quotes, that has a, I think this is a Compute Module 3 plugged in as the board to power it. So I'm going to be looking to see, and so this one obviously is going to be a Game Boy style case, and I've even got batteries in there. So, and there's a USB port there as well. So this is clearly going to be a Game Boy-like portable device, which I think is going to be infinitely more interesting than the other not ergonomic thing that I had earlier. So here is this is another cartridge with another type of compute module in it. So this has got the Compute Module 2 inside it. So I think we're up to 34 now, right? So this does have a Compute Module 2, and this is an aftermarket adapter that you can put a Compute Module 3 in. So there we go. So that's what this is all about. And I think this behind this bungee here is access to the SD card, and there's an SD card in it. So I did start messing around with this. The reason why I didn't get very far with these is I was making life difficult for myself because, you know, nerd. And I wanted to make my own OSs for all of this, starting with like an Ubuntu base and building everything up myself. I'm undecided if I want to like completely make my own OS or not anymore, because if I get into that, then the lead time to actually getting these up and running, you know, gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Seeing as though that had an SD card in it. This is, I don't know if this is going to work. Turn it on. Is that volume or brightness? Volume. No, nothing's booting. So I don't know that I've done anything with this. What is that? It is contrast for the display. And it's gone off. So I think the batteries are on their last leg. So I think that that's probably why that's not doing anything. There's not enough juice to actually power it. But it's clear what that one's going to be. But then, of course, I'm curious to see if now there's an aftermarket one of these for the Compute Module 4, because that's got a bit more power. And I don't know. I'm assuming that Game Boy emulation should be well within the scope of a Compute Module. But I've not tested it. But I think that was my thinking at the time. So there we go, a handheld one, and that's the power adapter for it. So we'll just stick that in there. So have I gone through everything? This was the PlayStation. These are spare cases. So there we go. A lot of retro devices. So was 34 the final count, or did we get to 35? I can't quite remember. But there we go. So I think if 34 is right, yes, we have learned today that I am indeed a pie hoarder. So the question is, I know that I'm going to be working on the Ubuntu multi-images. That's definitely the first thing I'm going to be working on. And that's what those dev boards back there will be used for. And then there's all of these retro devices. Now, I never owned a Nintendo Entertainment System or a SNES or a Sega Mega Drive. Those were all things that I was able to play at friends' houses. So I'm inclined to start with those. But then that PlayStation project looks like fun because it's literally a single game solution for my in-laws. And then there's these, which are not so pressing because when I started building these, 8-bit verses was still a thing. And maybe if Popey and I decide we're going to reboot that, then I could get back to those. So Sironin says they had a Master System. Right, let me just move this box to the floor and then I'll rearrange what we've got. Oh, actually, there's one other box down here I'd forgotten about. So those are the controllers, and then the Mega Drive. Then we've got the assorted NES cases and NES cases, and then several controller options for that, and then another NES case and things. So loads of retro computer parts. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, I've got some of those cases were empty, and these were, at the various Raspberry Pi for putting in those projects, which I haven't got round to yet. So plenty of gear here, and there's one more. So I'm just going to put this to one side, and this one doesn't have a Raspberry Pi inside it, which is probably what I think one of those 8 gig Raspberry Pi 4s is definitely for this. And again, every device is going to have a purpose. So I showed you the Monster Joystick, and that's going to be exclusively for fighting games because of the nature of the joystick. And then this is the last of, and that is the Pimmeroni arcade, mini arcade kit. So this takes a Raspberry Pi 4 now. It was the new model last year. So this is what I intend to build last, because hopefully what I learn from doing these other retro devices will inform the best way to do the software for this. And this is where I thought that extender module might be helpful for easily exposing the SD card whilst I'm constructing it. So that was the idea there. I haven't even broken the seal on this. This is still fully boxed up. So that's the one I'm most looking forward to doing, but I will probably do last. So what do you think? Should I have a go at making my own? Let's just try this. Let's try that button. Oh no, that didn't work. Right, where's my mouse? Here it is. Let's do this. So, wrong thing. There we go. So, my original thinking was I was going to make my own operating systems for all of these. Like, start with an Ubuntu image for the Raspberry Pi, and then build on top of that to add the emulators and a front end and make them all single purpose, you know. So like you say, if you want to play a NES game, you get the NES case because that's got the NES games on it. So it's nice and easy to store these. They all come in nice little boxes, and you can just grab the box off the shelf, plug it in, play some games, put it back in the box, put it back on the shelf. So that's all nice and easy. And like I say, I was thinking make my own OS, and I did start, like last year, I did start on this Ubuntu Retro Remix, but I just made a proof of concept and didn't take it any further than that. So yeah, I either do that or I use some existing retro project, you know, like RetroPie and or others, in order to just give myself a fast start. But that doesn't appeal to me as much because I don't get to learn anything in the process. You know, I like doing things where I learned something along the way. So yes, indeed, Danny, lots of Sanwa arcade parts. In fact, I have a monster joystick at home, which is not the one with the Raspberry Pi inside. It's just the joystick, which I use for old 8-bit games. It's great. I mean, Sanwa, you can't deny those. They were made to get bashed around in arcade for years and years at a time. So yeah, they're quite decent. So King Egypt says that they always wanted a SNES or a Mega Drive, but my dad said it was silly to have something that could only play games. So we had to make do with a Ren and a Spectrum. What was a Ren? I don't remember those. Yeah, a bit like you, King Egypt. It was, yeah, have a computer. So I had originally the VIC-20 and then a Commodore 64, and then I was old enough to, you know, get a paper round and work in greengrocers and what have you, and save my own money and then buy what I wanted. Made up when I started earning. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was working when the first PlayStation came around, and it was like, I want a PlayStation. I'm going to go and buy a PlayStation because I'm grown up now. Turns out I wasn't all that grown up, but yeah. A 1984 luggable. Wow, okay. I've never heard of that. I'll have to look it up. That sounds like something Popey would enjoy. So, that's all the gear. I'm going to pack this away. I've cleared space on my shelves over here. So after this, I'm going to just nicely stick everything on the shelves so I can see at a glance what I've got, which will make it easier rather than these big boxes full of stuff. I'll keep one box just for like all of the odds and ends and spare unused cases and stuff like that. But most of it I'm going to leave on the shelf so that I can remind myself what I've got and what I want to work on next. But I'm really interested. Should I make an OS for this, or shall I just go with an existing project? And what existing projects are there that you would recommend for particularly the retro computing stuff? The camera stuff I think I'm going to do from scratch because I really want to learn that whole process. But the retro, I know how to do the retro stuff. I have done it before several times in the past. Did I? And I think I started with RetroPie back then, but then added a load of custom shaders for the GPU. So I could do something like that, or do it all from scratch. I just don't know. So Big Pod says he's so young, consoles never made sense. Beyond exclusive, since the PCs are so good for gaming. Yeah. If I make an OS, can we watch? Yeah, if I make an OS, it will be here. And like I say, I did start that process about a year ago, I think. Bit over a year ago. It's on my GitHub. It's called Ubuntu Retro Remix, and it basically bootstraps an Ubuntu image on the Raspberry Pi and installs a bunch of stuff. And I did a very quick POC where I used, oh gosh, I know I had to go with Ludo, which is actually what I really want to use because it's a really simple, as in clean presentation of a UI. But it's it's a little bit, it's not limited so much as it's got a specific focus, and I don't know if it's got the expandability and integration that I need. And then the other one, not RetroPie, what's RetroPie made of? Is it RetroArch? And I think most of the POC I put together was RetroArch and enabling their new UI and tweaking things and what have you. So I got to the point where it was a runnable thing, and I got all the hardware acceleration working on the Raspberry. So it's an Ubuntu based image, and it adds stuff and it enables the hardware acceleration.
Thank you for the follow, Cyronin.
Thanks, Cyronin, for the follow. I appreciate that. So yeah. Anyway, let me know what you think. Join the Discord in the panels. As always, wimpysworld.io/discord. Join our Discord. We've got a section in there for the retro remix still. I've not done any work on it for a while, but maybe that's where we start. I'll be interested if anyone wants to join that effort. If you want to, if making an OS is a thing, then it's always better to do it with other people involved. So if you're interested in doing something like that, then let me know. Come and have a chat about that, and maybe we'll do that, because obviously QuickEmu has grown beyond how I originally envisaged it because of people getting involved in the project and adding cool stuff. So you know, it's better when there's a group of people working on things. But I'll give it a week to think about that, because the next thing is starting to get Ubuntu Mate in place for the Raspberry Pi again, or the new version of Ubuntu Mate. So, and Big Pod's talking about games on PC, which I obviously enjoy, but I really love a bit of retro gaming. I love the simplicity of controls on retro games. I just really enjoy. Very pick up and playable. Right, I suppose it's that time of the day where we need to go and find I've made a complete mess at my desk. This is going to be impossible. Right, where we go and find somebody who's streaming that we can go and raid. And I wonder if we can find anyone doing Raspberry Pi stuff. Probably not. Let's just head here and see who's doing what. Okay. Oh. Okay then. Game engine stuff. If you've got any suggestions, let me know. So what's this? King Egypt says lucky, yeah, lucky, yeah. Okay. I'm not seeing anything that's jumping out at me at the moment. Let's just look at this list. Ah, okay. Here we go. This is always good. So, oops, I will just mute that. Right, okay, I have found our destination. Let's do this thing. Right then, thank you all for coming. Thanks for stopping by. I look forward to hearing your feedback about how I should tackle the retro stuff. And if you've got any experience with doing Raspberry Pi camera stuff, then also drop into the Discord to let me know your experience with that as well, because I'm going to be learning that from literally the very beginning. So feedback welcome. Right, well with that, I'm going to say thank you very much, and I hope to see you maybe tomorrow, where I'll be doing this again, and maybe we'll start working on Ubuntu Mate for the Raspberry Pi. So, bye for now. See you soon. We're going to head over to Julie Strater and her channel. And I need to push all the buttons.